on, one more time. You could do better than that. Good morning. Welcome to Institute Day and the 2013-2014 school year. I am Ashley Van Thiel. I am the new Director of Talent Development. And I will be working with each of you in your schools this year. And I look forward to the work that we do to help educate our scholars. So I want to take just a few moments. The past 3 days I've been with our wonderful new staff members and teachers, and I would love for them to go ahead and stand up and be recognized. We're so excited to have you at Rockford Public Schools. Let's give them a big, huge round of applause. Just like many of these new teachers, I'm very, very excited to be a part of the community and be a part of Rockford Public Schools and where we're going with education. And Dr. Aaron Jarrett is going to do a fabulous job as our new superintendent, and I have the honor and pleasure of welcoming him. But before we do so, Dr. Jarrett, I would like to announce where our schools are going to go after Dr. Jarrett speaks and the video comes on. So Eisenhower, Flynn, Risa, West, Auburn, Guilford, East, and Jefferson will remain here in the main auditorium. And then after the video, Kennedy, Lincoln, Marshall, Rosecrans, Wilson Aspire, and Roosevelt will head right outside the auditorium and go to your left to the south auditorium. Okay? And I will announce those names again later. So without further ado, please let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Aaron Jarrett.
Great to have everyone back for Convocation, and if there's one thing the Rockford Public Schools do extremely well, it's we do convocations for new superintendents. We get a lot of practice for that. So I want to take every opportunity to do that. Before I get started today, I would like to introduce our two board members in attendance that we have here, Mr. Ken Scrivano and Mr. Mike Connor. Can I have you guys stand and be recognized? So I thought about, because you guys have heard a few of these, I thought about some of the kind of the general motifs or patterns we typically use to when the new superintendent takes the stage here in Rockford. And one of the typical things you do is you kind of tell your life story and talk a lot about yourself. And I'm not going to do that. Thank you. It's not that interesting. But as I was really thinking about this summer already, I was sitting in the Rockford Park District's boardroom, and and they have this beautiful boardroom, and on the side they have plaques with all of the entire 100-plus year history of this very successful organization. They win national awards. They've had a total of 7 executive directors in the history of that organization. I thought, you know what, we need to look at something different that we could do for our boardroom. But for us, if we did history of the Rockford Public School superintendents, we'd only be able to go about a decade back if we were going to go for that kind of a wall plaque. So that, unfortunately, isn't going to be something that we're able to do. But I think it does say a lot about what happens with stability and culture. And I'm happy to be here because I do believe we have some of that stability at the board level. And I think the fact that we've had a relatively seamless transition with our team over the last 2 years speaks to the fact that we could start heading in that direction. Now, one of the things I don't also want to spend a lot of time with is all of this strategy that we're going to talk about. Now, I am going to give you some things that I'm proud of that we've done in the last 2 years and some of the things we're excited about, but that's really not going to be the focus of the presentation either, because like you, I've sat through a lot of the silver bullet kind of presentations, and if there's one thing we're probably more weary of than the new superintendent speech, it's the new superintendent speech where we give you the brand new, exciting strategic plan that's going to change everything and the world's going to be all different. And ultimately, strategy is important, but as my colleague Angel Contreras says, strategy gets eaten by culture every day for breakfast. Culture always wins out over strategy. So we cannot have a situation where we focus so much on the big things and the good things we're going to do and ignore the fact that we've got a lot of work to do on our culture. So I'm going to spend a lot of time talking to you about how I think I can contribute, our team can contribute, and we can all contribute to having a stronger culture, to getting to what we want to accomplish. Now, when you look at the way we're perceived in our community, I think there are some challenges right now. And one thing that was really exciting for me this summer, actually is last spring, I had the opportunity to go into the Prudential building overlooking Millennium Park in Chicago. And it was a pretty intimidating process because I was getting ready to meet, along with Cedric, our CFO, a couple board members. We went up to the 29th floor, and we were going to talk about our bond rating. And this was not really in my comfort zone. I'm a former social studies and English teacher, so I didn't really come up through the financial ranks. And meeting with some guys from Standard & Poor to talk to them about bond rating wasn't something that I was overly familiar with, but it was really exciting to do this because if we got them to move us from an A+ to a AA- bond rating, that was going to be worth about $4 million to the district. That was going to be $4 million that goes, instead of to paying bonds, would go to our schools. So I was committed to being a part of this, and we prepped really hard, and we told our story. And what was really exciting as we told our story, they seemed to really be listening. That there were some positive things about the Rockford, believe it or not, some positive fundamentals in the Rockford economy. There were, however, some concerns with the state economy, and we spent a lot of time talking about how rough things are with the state of Illinois not paying its bills. And so my contribution was very limited, but the one thing I did share with them, I said, we may be in the state of Illinois, but we're very near the state of Wisconsin, so you should take that into consideration. I don't think that exactly pushed them over the top or swayed them, but ultimately, because of the fundamentals of our financial position and some of the hard work that's gone on, we were in a situation where we got that bond rating, and now that $4 million is going to be part of what I hope becomes a $250 million commitment to improve the quality of our schools. And you can see $32 million of that work starting right now. So I thought that was an exciting win. And if you look at Rockford from the eyes of Standard & Poor, that's pretty positive. We're a AA- now, not an A+. So we've got a ways to go before we're AAA, but the United States government, unfortunately, isn't even AAA right now. So I think the fundamentals are heading in the right direction. So when you look at our culture from that outside perspective, it looks pretty good. And as you move closer to the ground, if you maybe move to that 10,000-foot view, when you look at how our community looked at us, when we have a strong message, culturally this community still wants to support us. One of the reasons we're in Heartland right now is because of their 7-year commitment to the schools with ShareFest. And the work they've done at Jefferson is absolutely outstanding. Let's give those folks a round of applause. If you look at that Better Schools, Brighter Future campaign, I am convinced that there are really 3 reasons why people would have supported that campaign, and we got one of them really badly, which is we didn't really have a strong, coherent vision of what we were actually going to do with the money. But what we did do a really good job, and I think a lot of it has to do with ShareFest, is people and teachers really contributed to this. People really believed us when we said our schools need the money. There weren't a lot of people when I was going around. I probably went to about 70 community events, went to different schools. There weren't a lot of people that were standing up and grabbing the microphone and saying, I think these schools are fine. They really don't need the work. I mean, we can confirm that our schools need an investment. We need to improve the physical plant. So we made that case. I think we made a pretty strong financial case as well. So that was okay. And when you look at the community, everyone told us, under no circumstances, in Rockford, Illinois, or in any community for that matter, should you run a referendum campaign in a general election cycle. They said that's just crazy. Can't do it. You don't want a high turnout. What you want to do is have a low turnout and get the few people that support you to show up more than the people who are going to vote against everything. That's the conventional wisdom. Well, we ran it in a general election anyway, and because of a lot of your help and because of the community support and a great Better Schools, Brighter Future campaign, we won 65 to 35 for $139 million in GEO bonds, which will contribute to that $250 million we're going to invest in the schools. So that, from 10,000 feet, is a huge example of what our community will do to support us if we do have the right culture and the right message. But when I talked to when we had a private school parent focus group and we talked to parent groups, unfortunately, some of the words that are flashing across the screen, I didn't want to leave them up there too long because it frustrates me. But a lot of our culture in the community right now, when you get to the ground level, when you get past the good news financially and some of the good news with the facilities, is there's still a lot of people that think about the lawsuit, or they think about schools that may not be safe for their children. And so what I really believe is we have to do work on culture, and we have to start with our 3,700 employees. And it's not going to be about selling the community on grandiose things. It's going to have to start with spending time working with all of you and really talking about how we can believe in our own product in a way that we collectively don't right now. And you know, one of the things you could blame would be, well, it's the media. The media is just out to get the Rockford Public Schools. And there was probably a time where the news coverage was pretty rough for us there. But when we track this stuff now, actually the coverage for us is actually 10-to-1 positive to negative. So we really are heading in the right direction from a media standpoint. But the days of the media being kind of the only conduit of information, those are over. And I really believe our number one commitment needs to be, first of all, convincing you collectively as teachers and all of our employees that what we're doing here is valuable and that our culture is worth being a part of. And the biggest decision people can make is where they send their kids to school. So we are really going to be focused on culture even more than strategy. And again, I'm going to mention a few of the things I think we do have going in the right direction, because you can't sell something that isn't authentically good. And we want to make sure that we, first of all, get the results, and secondarily, are convincing all the people who work for us that this is a good place. And we know we have a lot of baggage for all the different superintendent turnover we've had, all the tough issues we've fought through. I know we're not starting from a great place there. I'm not here to say, hey, if I just give a good speech, that everybody's going to be on board. You guys have seen enough talking heads. I know that. Okay? We have to do more. And so when we look at this idea of culture, I've kind of been in all three, as a lifelong resident of the community, I've been in all three of the places I think our employees are. Okay, right now I'm very much in a place where I'm their RPS cheerleader. I really want to sell that message. And I think we have a ton of employees that have been here a lot longer than I have that are consistently out there supporting the Rockford Public Schools. And that's great. And I'm glad we have some of the people on board. But then there's another group that's kind of more passive in being negative about the schools. And I've certainly fell into that category in the past. You know, when I first started this job, my first year on the job, I'm the assistant superintendent, and my kids didn't even go to the public schools at that point. Now, they do now, but honestly, here I am at this high level, and I'm not supporting the product, so how can I expect anyone else to do that? And then there's a third group, and I was a part of this way too often in 2004 or 5 when I was the assistant principal at East, where I was actively talking about some of the stuff that would go on in the school, and I was actively portraying a negative image about what the culture and climate of our school was like. And the bottom line is, because that's true, that's what I was seeing. So we have to, first of all, fix the results and get things going in the right direction. But then we have to be mindful collectively. My challenge and my primary focus is going to be working with you all collectively to get to the point where, number one, we have a great story to tell, and number two, that we're committed to telling it. Because ultimately, right now, Standard & Poor and the overall electorate in many ways views us better than we view ourselves. And so we've got to turn that page, and it's not going to happen from one 20-minute speech today. It's going to happen us collectively rolling up our sleeves and deciding how we're going to change this culture together. Now, there are some things that we do need to know, and the only reason I'm going to share some stuff from our Readiness Rocks is not because I want to beat you up with strategy today, because again, I think the culture is the bigger issue. There are things I'm not sure people know about our students, and I want to arm you with this stuff. Okay? 80% of our students have one or less discipline referral right now. We spend a lot of time in Rockford talking about a small percentage of our students, and we are going to support principals and teachers and staff to make sure that the 20% of students that are making some mistakes get the help they need, but do not disrupt the learning environment. That is our commitment. Higher standards lead to better results, and we want to give you the opportunity to teach without being inhibited. And we have seen, as we have raised those standards, the climate has continued to improve. Sorry, I've got to bounce this off the ceiling. It slows me down a little bit. 7 periods for success. When I speak to the elementary group tomorrow, I'm going to basically have to apologize because we wasted a year. We had a really tough thing, and I think we fixed this. But when you look at what's already happening with adding a period to our middle schools and high schools, this is a cause for celebration. And I could tell you a whole bunch of examples, but I think this is the best one. 2012, we had, of 8 middle schools, we had 3 bands and 1 orchestra. Now we have 8 bands and 7 orchestras. That's something to be proud of. That's happening for 2 reasons. One, because we have great teachers that are getting kids excited about those programs. And number 2, kids now have room in their schedule because the board has committed to spending $6 million a year to hire more teachers to make it happen and to give kids that choice. That's something I'm really proud of and excited about. Again, I don't want to belabor this, but when you go back to this facilities stuff, okay, we're investing $32 million right now in the facilities, and over an 8 to 10 year period, we're committed to investing $250 million. And you can see signs all over town that are showing changes that are happening. We've broken ground already at Auburn. We've done some paving work at some of the other middle schools, but every school is going to be impacted in some way with this facilities master plan that we're going to create, and I'm excited to involve all of you in that process. We have a nice start, but we don't have a fully functional plan. We did a lot of needs analysis. Now we need to really look at what we want to do strategically and what we want our footprint to look like as a system. Preschool for all. We have 600 more kids in preschool. For all of you that deal with students that are behind when they get to middle school and high school, we really believe this is a root cause kind of an emphasis here. At some point, if we close the achievement gap early, it costs less money and it takes a lot less heroics. I know this room is full of people who are heroically dealing with kids that are reading 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years below grade level. I think one of the smartest ways to make sure that happens less and less is to invest in preschool. Okay, it's a long way up the pipeline for you guys, but you deal with it. And finally, this is aspirational very much, the idea of college for all, and it's the one that sounds the most like a pipe dream, but I got to tell you, we're already making some progress. Matt Vosberg has worked tirelessly to move this forward, and I can tell you that we've had some major successes already. We already have the Lincoln Promise Zone legislation that the governor signed this month, which puts us in line to be one of 3 communities that receives funding. There is no funding associated with it yet, so I don't want to promise it before it gets here, but that's exciting. And I want to tell you about what Rockford University is doing for Rockford Public Schools. They were very specific, Dr. Head and his team and the board were, that they are willing to commit 160 slots to Rockford University right now for the tuition it costs to go to Rock Valley College. Rockford University costs $26,000. Rock Valley College costs $3,200 for 160 of our students. If we can find the funding, we can connect that, and we can connect those dots. We have a $2 million a year contribution from Rockford University right there on the table. Let's make that happen. Now, all I'm going to really talk to you about planning is a commitment that I'm going to make to all of you today. Because I've heard a lot about the eye rolling with the talking head, superintendent speech, and all that kind of stuff. And I know everybody, there's a lot of places many of you would rather be. But here's my commitment to you. And I've already got one school, and I already have all these on the calendar. And I want you to hold me accountable for this. I've talked to person after person that has told me, you know, I've been in this building for 5 years, or 7 years, or 10 years, and I've never seen the superintendent once. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be in every single school at least once as part of a faculty meeting. And I'm not going to be there to give a big speech. I'm going to be there to say hello, and I'm going to open up the floor, and we're going to have a conversation, because I think that's where culture starts to get built. It doesn't get built from the stage here. It doesn't get built by you watching Channel 20, okay? It gets built by us having a conversation and interacting and me directly hearing from you about how we can improve our culture and how we can make our schools better. So that is my commitment to you. I'm going to be in every school, and I'm ultimately going to meet with every employee group in my first year in the job, and that is a commitment I will live up to on an annual basis, because I believe that's where the answers are. It's not outside, it's right here. Now, I want you to think a little bit about, the only thing I'm going to share from a vision perspective is just think a little bit about what would start to happen to the aspirations of our student and the quality of our neighborhoods and the value of our property if we actually executed on these big dreams we're talking about. What would happen if this $250 million investment just becomes the first phase and 10 years later we do more? What would happen if every kid in this community really did get a high-quality preschool experience? What would happen to our community if by virtue of buying a house in Rockford, you had a free college education? What would start to happen to property values? What would start to happen to people who want to live here? I know we have the talent right now to execute on the teaching and learning in the classroom. But we need a coherent set of strategies to support that. Strategy's not going to do it. Culture's going to do it. But I do believe we have to dream big here. We can't just nibble around the edges. And I do want you to spend a little time thinking about what this community could be like if the Rockford Public Schools become an engine for growth, become kind of the house on the hill that people are excited about. And there's been a time where that was the case. And we can get that back, but we can only get that back collectively. If I go around and I do nothing but give speeches in the community, if our 3,700 employees are talking to their social networks and saying, you know what, this stuff's phony, it's not real, it won't matter what I say. It doesn't matter. What matters is what we collectively say. Okay? There is no one media outlet that dominates the conversation anymore. With social networking, ultimately what it comes down to is people care what the teacher they know says about the schools more than they care about the superintendent they see on Channel 20 says about the schools. And so my focus is going to be to build a kind of shared vision that we can all be excited about and spend time building that vision with you by talking to you. And that's what I'm committed to doing in my first year and what I hope is a long period of time that I get to spend with you, because I do believe there's a reason why 7 Park District executive directors in 100 years has contributed to that. And I don't expect to have that opportunity if we don't collectively do a great job together, but I do aspire for this community to have the kind of stability that we've had in other organizations that have been successful. So I thank you for your time today, and I'm inspired to see this room full of people who I know had to be here today, but I'm inspired by what we can collectively do together. And I want to work with you hand in hand to build the kind of school system that we all want to work in and that we all want to send our children to and that we all want to tell our neighbors about because we're proud of it. So let's work on achieving that vision collectively together, because if we do that, this community is poised to be incredibly successful. Thank you for having me today.
I'd like to thank Mr. Stockton for helping me grow into a better student and making me ready for my harder classes next year and even just for my future college and everything like that.
My teachers for sure, Mr. Slager and Mrs. Wolf, they taught me everything I know about theater.
I'd like to thank my first track coach, Coach Cozy. He's been with me since I was about 9 years old, and he's very wise.
My teacher, Lynn Stockton, is my biggest inspiration because she cares. She always helps me and she points me in the right direction.
I owe all my success to my cheer coach, Shelly McGinley. She's been with me since day one. She actually helped me even in middle school when she wasn't even the cheer coach. She was the assistant.
I would just like to thank Mrs. Rona for keeping me involved for the last 4 years and encouraging me to continue in college to keep going with theater.
Mrs. Vedro supported me for a field of medicine because she wanted to do it and she was passing some of her knowledge on to me and some experience, and I needed some kind of guidance because, of course, I was still confused what part of medical I wanted to go in.
So my art teacher, Miss Jones, Miss Jones Delpra, she just got married. But she is a huge part of my success right now, and without her, I don't think I would be doing artwork, and she really does go above and beyond for me, and I just really appreciate her.
Here in America, the most supportive person was Miss Doring. He let me every day practice singing and playing violin in the mornings. So he was the person who just gave me this opportunity to learn more.
My favorite teacher is Miss Laparoux because she makes French easier learning for us. She walks us through everything and she makes sure that we have the words right and everything. Thank you, Miss Laparoux, for making French easier for us.
My favorite teacher is Miss Swazik. She's a geometry teacher and algebra teacher, And the reason she's my favorite teacher is she just knows how to teach, and she knows how to explain things in the way that we would understand it. Miss Swazik, I just want to thank you for teaching me all the things that you taught me and the way you teach me.
My favorite teacher would be Miss Lewis. She was my English teacher last year, and she's my favorite teacher because she had a lot of patience with me, and if I didn't get something, she would go over again, or stayed after school to tutor me, and she just helped me a lot and gave me a lot of support when I just didn't understand. And well, I'd like to thank you, Miss Lewis, for being there for me when I was I didn't really get it and I was struggling with my work. You helped me a lot, and I would like to thank you, because without you, then I would be struggling more this year.
My favorite teacher is Miss Wilkie, because she helped me figure out what I wanted to do in life. Miss Wilkie, I would like to say thank you for helping me out, and I hope to see you next year, and you're an awesome teacher.
Wow, after that speech and that video, I'm inspired. So we're going to break up now into our two groups that I mentioned earlier. So again, the schools that will be remaining here, staying here in the main auditorium, are Eisenhower, Flynn, Risa, West, Auburn, Guilford, East, and Jefferson. And the schools that will be transitioning into the South Auditorium, so again, right out these doors when you go out to your left, is going to be Kennedy, Lincoln, Marshall, Rosecrans, Aspire, and Roosevelt. Thanks.
Good morning. Good morning. Everyone get to their seats. Everybody can find their seats. We'll get started. It's got quiet quickly. This is just like when I was a teacher. I mean, the kids instantaneously were focusing on task, right, Mrs. Portis? Welcome back. Hope everybody had a great summer, relaxing and enjoyable. I know my daughters are well relaxed and ready for school. And if watching countless hours of Dance Moms and Gator Boys is somehow aligned to the Common Core curriculum, they're going to be poised for greatness this year. It's amazing what qualifies as entertainment these days. It's just unbelievable. But welcome back, and I'm excited about this school year. Some of you might be asking yourself this question today, or Monday, or sometime this semester, first semester. It's interesting. This is my 20th year in education, and I've spent exactly 10 years in the Rockford school system and 10 years working outside the Rockford School District in neighboring school districts. And I've actually left jobs that I've enjoyed with people I enjoyed working with twice to come here. And often people would ask me, why are you doing that? And at times it may not appear to be the best move, but I've always thought it was the best move at the time and never regretted those decisions. And let me explain a little bit of why I think that. Number one, I don't think the perception is quite matched with the reality of what we do day to day and what happens in our buildings. I think obviously we have some challenges, we have some challenging students, we have some challenging situations, but I don't think our challenges are unique to Rockford. I was an assistant principal in this district for 5 years, and in that role you get to see a lot of interesting things, some things that Dr. Jarrett alluded to earlier. But I had peers that were assistant principals in neighboring districts, and we all shared the same stories. So I think we all have similar challenges, and I think we've been our own worst enemy at times, but I hope those days are beyond us. Secondly, I've always believed in our kids and our teachers, and I'm a little biased because I'm a former RPS student and a former RPS teacher, but I do think that our kids will meet expectations, and I think we've made some strides with at least climate in the last couple years, and I can share some stats. We've raised expectations, and kids are meeting those expectations. We're at a 10-year low with arrest numbers. We didn't do anything differently to do that other than run a good school, hold kids accountable, raise expectations. We've had individual schools. Guilford High School had a 40% reduction in discipline referrals last year. We went from 1 zero tolerance offense to get an expulsion to 5 in our code of conduct last year. I was a little worried that we'd have a huge increase in expulsions, and we went from basically 119 to 125. And we again raised expectations, and the kids met us there, and I think that's going to continue as we build moving forward. I also think opportunity is great in our district for students and for staff members. We offer a wide variety of choices for kids, specialized programs that are second to none. We have a Montessori program, a gifted Renaissance program, our Kappa program, our ROTC program, our dual language program, also integrating the ability to choose your neighborhood school. Those options don't exist in a lot of districts for a lot of kids. We have a lot of extracurricular opportunities for students that don't exist in other districts, and I'm thankful that my own children are taking advantage of those opportunities. And I think because of our economies of scale, we are able to offer some professional development opportunities for our staff that don't exist in a lot of districts in the area. So I think that gives us a huge advantage. And I think timing is right. I think the timing to be in this district is perfect. The community's been through a lot of growing pains, we'll say, over the years, and they have realized that this is complex work, and they're ready to pitch in and help us where we need them. And some examples were already shared earlier by Dr. Jarrett, but if you get a chance, go check out Jefferson. It's amazing. I actually taught in that building about 13 years ago, and what a transformation. Totally different. The cafeteria, the library, those academy offices, the hallways, getting rid of the carpeted hallways, just makes a huge difference It's going to be exciting for our kids the first day back. We have partnerships with Alignment Rockford and our business community that in the past 2 years have netted about $500,000 in financial support or in-kind services. If you get a chance on your way out today, there's a poster board on an easel that lists, there's about 100 partners that are working with us with our academy model that are all in behind our kids. We had a Academy Expo at Jefferson last year for our freshmen at Jefferson. That was amazing. 63 partners, business partners. They walked away energized and enthused after spending time with our kids, realizing that what the perception was and what the reality was not meshing. And a lot of them walked away saying, I want to work with these kids, I want to hire some of these kids. And so the community is definitely behind us. Obviously, the passing of the referendum in these tough economic times is another indicator of that. Last year, you may recall hearing a presentation about, I'm going to check something here. These slides are out of order. Let me skip to here. So I apologize for this. This is the beauty of working in a large district. You get to move things around with different people. Okay, so we'll go back to this slide. So last year you guys got the presentation on the readiness rocks, and Dr. Jarrett has talked about these a little bit. And I won't spend a lot of time on all of these, but we are going to talk about college career readiness in a little more detail. 7 periods of success. Again, Dr. Jarrett has highlighted that. That's here to stay. That's a cornerstone of what we need to do for kids. And we've also, aside from what Dr. Jarrett shared, we do have more honors and AP classes available. We've also, on the other end of the spectrum, some more opportunity for enrichment and intervention classes for students as well. 21st century learning environments, you're seeing that already take fold. Again, mentioned earlier, but we're moving forward with some great facility improvements that are desperately needed, and excited about that. Preschool for all, again, the 600 additional seats. Just ask a kindergarten teacher what the value of a high-quality preschool experience is for kids coming into kindergarten. And again, that's a proactive strategy. We're committed $1 million above what the state would reimburse us for in preschool, because we think that long-term it'll be an investment worthwhile and a savings in reduced services at the middle school and high school level. Finally, College for All. This is something I've spent a lot of time on and spent some time in Springfield, a very interesting place. I could probably do a whole presentation just on my times in Springfield, but I don't have time for that today. That strategy and this initiative obviously is very ambitious. When we first had these conversations at the cabinet level, I was pretty cynical about it and thought this is not really something we're going to be able to achieve. But as I've studied this issue and I've looked at what other districts are doing, I do believe that this is achievable for a lot of different reasons. And 20 other communities have figured out a way to do this. And in fact, Peoria, Illinois, right in our backyard, has a program that will cover the first 2 years of college for any kid who graduates from the Peoria Public Schools. So it's happening. I've seen how other communities have done it. We have the same opportunities as those communities, and I think it's really doable. The mission is twofold. One, cultural change in our community. When students know at a young age that college is the norm, college is the expectation, then they will strive for those goals. And that's witnessed. You can Google Kalamazoo, Michigan, and there was a profile on NBC Nightly News on what's happening in Kalamazoo, Michigan with the cultural changes in that community. Secondly, it's an economic redevelopment strategy. You have a lot of people moving to this region, buying homes, spending money. In fact, we had NIU conduct a study for us. For every dollar we invest in this program, we would get $131 back in our community. And so as I meet with business leaders in the community and share these statistics, they're starting to get energized and realize that really economic development in our region is going to be about getting good people here and not so much about maybe attracting the businesses. Because if good people are here, the businesses will follow. This is our current status, and this kind of plays into what the business community is looking at. This is a huge indicator for businesses on if they want to relocate here or if they want to expand business operations here, and is the workforce ready for that? And you can see there's a gap here. Our job market requires about 25% of our population to have a college degree, and our actual numbers indicate that about 20% of our population is there. So there's a gap that we can fill. This number, I think, ties into a lot of key indicators in our community. If you want to talk about the crime rate, unemployment, economic stagnation, all those things would link right to this. And what's exciting for me is we have a big piece, everybody in this room has a big piece in closing that gap. We can't do it by ourselves, but I think we have the skill set and the talent and the resources to make a lot of headway in this area, and our business partners are ready to work with us in this regard. The good news is we already know what works in our school districts. If you look at this chart, and I know it's probably not easy to see from your viewpoint, but the last bar is indicating that a student that has taken 3 AP classes in our school system will average a 27 on the ACT. A 27 on the ACT would put you near the 90th percentile, and you would be able to enroll in just about any college in the country. So our top kids can compete with the top kids in any school district. We all know that there's a lot of things that go into play for a kid to get to those 3 AP classes and be successful, and some of those things are out of our hands. Obviously, they have a support system somewhere, usually probably the family support system, but they have a strong support system, and they have a vision and a game plan at a young age. This doesn't happen overnight. One of the strategies I think that could get us there, though, in supporting what it takes for a kid to get to that level is our college and career academies. Now, I'm not proposing, as Dr. Jared had mentioned, I don't believe in the silver bullet solution either. I think that what we do is very complex and requires a lot of energy and effort and a lot of different partners. But I do think from our end, this model, and it's been proven in other districts, can be very effective in moving us forward academically as a district. I've listed 4 things that I think will make a difference. First is the smaller learning communities. The ability for teachers to work together in a smaller group, the English teacher and the math teacher and the science teacher talking about the same kids makes a difference. That power of collaboration makes a difference. And when kids find out that all their teachers are talking about them, believe it or not, that makes a difference. And that builds relationships and moves the needle academically. Secondly, college and career prep curriculum for all students. A guaranteed and viable curriculum across our district is critical. Kids have to have the same exposure across the district to the same kind of concepts that they're going to be assessed on that ACT exam. But also there has to be a connection and some relevance. And I think linking their career interests and their pathways to the curriculum is going to make a big difference in their own motivation levels and their own ownership in what we're trying to teach them. Our business partners, I've already talked a little bit about that, but they're available to provide a lot of services for our kids and for our teachers. Some of you have participated in externships this summer and were able to go out on the job site and learn a little bit about how algebra ties in to the manufacturing services, the manufacturing field, or whatever opportunities you had this summer to tie in what you're doing in the classroom into the real world experience. So hopefully when the kid says, why do I need to learn this? You've got a better answer than because I'm the teacher. Although, sometimes that is an answer we give. But integrating those business partners with our own externships as employees, they can provide mentoring for kids. They can provide job shadowing opportunities for kids. They can provide internships for kids. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And finally, I think the most important piece here is the teacher leadership piece. As you guys know who've been here for a while, the administrative leadership, sometimes the stability is not there, right? And I personally, I hope that changes. But when we have embedded leadership amongst our teacher ranks, the teachers, regardless of what the administration is doing, the teachers are moving forward. And in this framework, you have the ability to work in small teams, your PLC teams, your academy teams, the academy coaches, and you have the power of collaboration, the power of innovating with different minds in the room, and have stability long term. So I think all those 4 areas are going to play largely in what we do moving forward. This is our implementation timeline. You can see Jefferson had the Freshman Academy last year with some success I'll talk about in a minute. And this year they're wall-to-wall academies. Everybody is in academy, juniors, freshmen through senior year. Our other 3 high schools are starting the Freshman Academy this year, and then next year we'll move forward to their wall-to-wall implementation. This will give students different checkpoints in their career to find out what their career interests are, what's out there for them, to prepare them for college and career readiness, starting in 8th grade all the way until graduation. As I said before, last year was the first year at Jefferson. We've already seen some quick wins here. Okay, we've had a 30% reduction. First of all, let me back up. The Academy Expo. We talk about changing the culture of our community. Nothing's more powerful than people who don't know anything about our schools actually getting an education on that and meeting their kids and our teachers and learning firsthand what's really going on. And so that, I think, is powerful. In fact, the Academy Expo is expanded. It's at the BMO Center in a month, and we're turning away businesses. We have over 100 businesses that are involved, and more want to be a part of it, and we just don't have the space. So the business community is very excited about this, and we're looking forward to those partnerships. But on the ground level, 30% reduction in failure rate with students and failures at the freshman level, 30% reduction in unexcused absences, and a 30% reduction in tardiness. Those are huge wins in the first year of implementation. So I think that bodes well. And those reductions are based on what teachers did. Okay, a lot of that is what teachers did, and I know Don's team did a lot, but this is the model of smaller learning communities and what it can do for kids. I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate all your efforts and energy, and wish you the best this year. Mr. Hickman will be next to the podium.
I do. She is my health teacher, and her name is Miss Woodsmall. She makes everything fun, and she's always happy and loud, but she always keeps me awake and interested.
I like Mrs. Zalaki. I like Mrs. Zalaki.
Why is she special?
Well, she really is enthusiastic when she teaches, and she puts it in a way where you can really learn well.
Mrs. Tartaglia, she makes math really easy. She makes it fun in a way.
One teacher that I really found kind of instrumental in my education was Mrs. Meingast. Geometry wasn't my favorite class, but with her ability to kind of make me enthusiastic about it, I was able to kind of want to do well, and so I got a lot more out of that class.
Miss Koblash, I want to say thank you to her for teaching me and to make me stay, I want to keep going to gym and want to keep participating in the stuff they do.
Miss Kanak, thank you for helping me get good grades. I mean, I struggle with math, and I'm doing very well in that subject.
I'd have to say Mr. Mace. He really connects with all the kids, and everybody can get along with him, and everyone just enjoys being in his class.
My favorite teacher at Flynn Middle School is Miss Norgren. She's really nice, and she keeps me on task. Sería la maestra Edwards. Ella se mudó, pero ella cuando yo tenía problemas en la escuela me ayudó. Era paciencia y era cariñosa, y no podía preguntarme para más en una maestra.
Mr. Watts has been a very influential teacher for me. He's really brought out a different side of me that I've never known.
I like Senora Patrick. She's very optimistic, eccentric, and hyper, and makes class fun.
I think my favorite teacher would be Mr. Geld.
He was very kind and he encouraged me to speak in Spanish.
I'll have to say Mr. Arnella. He actually made me start liking social studies. Before that, social studies would have to be my worst subject.
I think my favorite teacher would be Mr. Garza. He's really dedicated to his work.
I like Miss Austin and Miss Davis a lot. They both taught me a lot this year, and they're there for you, like not only school-wise, but like social-wise.
Miss Craig.
Why?
Because she's like a second mom, and she teaches us a lot, and we do a lot of projects.
The teacher that stood out was Miss Cantwell. She's always trying to make the class fun. She's being sarcastic, fun jokes, and then at the same time we learn. Would be Captain Briggs, even though I don't have one of his classes. He got me interested into many programs and helped me socialize.
Yeah, my favorite teacher is Miss Coates. Students actually listen to her and enjoy like having her as a teacher.
I'd have to say my 8th grade biology teacher, Mrs. Maclazo, has been a huge influence on me and my learning styles. Thank you. I mean, without you, none of this would have ever, I would not be here. You've really inspired me to learn and be the best I can, to be an academic all-star.
Good morning. I told Dr. Jarrett I did not want to wear this thing, and he made me anyway. You know, as you can see, a little bit different now. I cut my hair. A little bit, I think I'm a little bit better looking now that I'm clean shaved. My name is Chip Hickman. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Secondary. I partner with Matt Vosberg in supervising middle schools, high schools. I'm responsible for special education, gifted, other related services. So if there's somebody to blame about something, blame me. I'm sure that it's under the auspices of my responsibility in some way. Before I came to central office, I had kind of an idea of what I thought central office did and the way that they think. And I was really concerned about that. And this Dilbert cartoon kind of reflects what I thought happened at central office. And I'm sure at times you do too. Be rest assured, this is not going on. We're trying to find strategies and initiatives that make sense, that make a difference, easy to implement. And we're not doing the boss from Dilbert. Over the last 30 days, I've spent a great deal of time trying to learn everything I can about the organization. You know, our history and our traditions are rich and deep, and there's good parts of history and challenging parts of history, and I've heard a great deal, and both good and bad. There's a couple of things that I want to share with you that I know that know that are characteristics of our school district. You know, we have a vision that's student-focused, which if carried out by every member of this organization will make a difference, not only in the city of Rockford, but for generations to come. We're changing the dynamics and opportunities for our families. We have students, community leaders, instructional staff, support staff that all want our students to succeed, and they're committed to doing so. You all are making a difference in somebody's lives every single day. I was amazed when I spoke to students over the summer, and I always have to appreciate how many students we have and how many programs we have. Every time I spoke to a kid and I said, is somebody in our organization, or I said, our district, making a difference in your life? I never got an answer no. Every single student I asked could identify a person, a specific example. There are challenges and obstacles that you have as staff within our district for a number of different reasons, some of which we've created. Our focus is to remove those, to allow you to be in a position to make a difference in students' lives. I also know that the demands of our students in today's new world market are greater than they've ever been. The challenges are more difficult and complex than they've ever been. And we all serve as gatekeepers of possibility. And everyone that's speaking to you today, we represent teams of people behind us that have a vision in mind for our district and making a difference in our community. You know, we have some keys to success that we have to be sure that we address. And I'm speaking specifically to secondary. You know, the first is we are going to engage in a middle school assessment. We're going to take a look at what we're doing, what's working, what's not working, compare that to best practices, and implement a strategic plan in the future that makes sense to you, that you will have a say in. Implementing academies in all of our high schools. It's a pillar to our success. It's a non-negotiable. We're going down that path and it will make a difference. I think that's one of our strategies that make Rockford unique, and it can be game-changing and life-changing. We need to be sure that we align our goals, starting with my goals. My goals need to support principals' goals, which need to support school leadership team goals, which manifest down to the professional learning community level, so down to you as a teacher. When your goal and my goal, when they both align, and we have that rifled approach, that's when we'll make a difference. Lastly, we need to increase our students' college and career readiness. You know, at the heart of all this, everything that we do, that's the essence of what we're trying to accomplish. I'm sorry about that. I just presented another room, and these slides weren't on there, so I did not expect that. I did want to share a video because I understand that all of you have seen our high school academy video, and when I think I watched it day 3 on the job, inspiring, really gave me a picture of what we're trying to do and how we're going to get it done.
They need to understand that school is important, but we need to find something for every kid to get hooked into to keep him involved in school.
So there's very few students who could tell me, after I graduate, I'm going to go to this training, or I'm going to get this job, or I'm going to go to this college.
Academies are changing the Rockford schools because they are allowing kids to get more of a real-world perspective of school.
It's a great chance for them to see what the options are for them once they graduate.
All the kids who are interested in engineering, all the kids who are interested in health science, to put them in academies so that they're working with people who are like-minded and want the same thing as they do.
I wanted more because I wanted to be an apprentice somewhere, have a mentor to help me with everything.
There's 4 broad academies that the students have to choose from, and then within each of those academies are several pathways.
It's just connecting what you're learning in school to the real world. It's hard to make that connection to what you're doing in the classroom to what you're going to be doing in your adult life.
I'm actually in Emmett Academy. I want to be an engineer right now, but I don't know, it's kind of up in the air.
They may not be choosing the career that is going to be what they are established in the future, but at least they're getting an idea of what they don't want so that they don't make a bad choice.
And for them to figure that out in high school before they've gone and committed time and energy and financial resources to college, to be able to figure that out, that they don't want to do that, is just as powerful as figuring out what you do want to do.
The sociology class was doing a project, and they were thanking people and putting a monetary value on whatever someone had done. And a young man had given me a $6 million check.
Now I can stop any kid in the hallway and say, what academy do you pick? And they'll tell me right away. What pathway do you want to go into? And they'll tell me right away.
Even to just hear them talking about the different pathway options is good because they've never talked about this kind of thing.
I want to experience what architecture people do actually in reality instead of just like reading out a boring book.
The reality is we need to do this in order to acquire the talent to feed these jobs. We view it as both an obligation, an opportunity, and a necessity at the end of the day.
Not all students go to college, and that's okay, but we want them to come out prepared to work, have the tools they need to step into a job and be a successful contributor to society. And this will be the hook that we're looking for in this district to boost up our attendance rates, to boost up our graduation rates, and then ultimately is to get kids college and career ready.
Failure to plan is a plan for failure. That's a great adage, and that's a driving concept behind academies, is that we have to help our students develop a plan and learn the process for planning.
Dave Carson, can you stand and be recognized for all your hard work? I have a privilege of working with Dave every single day, and I'm amazed at his really passion for academies, but passion for our staff and recognizing the challenges that you're going through as we implement this new strategy. At the end of all this, you have to have an understanding or a focus of where you should go and how you should be directed this year. And I'm not going to get specific down to the goals, but I'm going to give you just a couple themes that you may want to consider. You know, the first is be cognizant of your school and department and PLC goals. That's about that team environment. And you have to understand where your school is trying to go and how you're going to get there. Participate in high-functioning teams. Be a good team member. Understand what a good team member is and put others before yourself. Identify and implement highly effective behavioral and academic interventions, ones that make sense and have proven to be effective over time. Those are the three areas that I would encourage you to focus on. Our vehicle for getting all this done is our professional learning communities. I think we use that term, and when I speak to business people about PLCs, what is that and what's that mean? And so I recently gave a presentation to Alignment Rockford, and I said, well, you know, PLCs is, we say that there are 4 essential questions, but there are really 4 easy steps to implementing PLCs, and that's plan, do, study, and act. We're going to plan by using valid and reliable practices that have proven to be effective. We're going to do by implementing those strategies with fidelity. So when your team comes together and says, we're going to use X reading strategy, we're all going to use it in the way that we agreed upon. We're going to study by evaluating the successes and opportunities for improvement. And then we're going to act upon that evaluation and make our processes better. Too many times when we say the word school improvement, in fact, let me back up. If I were to pull 10 of you up here and say, tell me your story about school improvement, how do we get it done? I bet we'd hear 10 different stories, anywhere from 30 seconds to an hour long, because I've done that with their own administrative staff. We need to simplify our school improvement process. You know, there are 5 steps to school improvement. What I hope is that you hear about these steps all year long, and that we rely upon those and we memorialize those within our schools. You know, the first one is simple. We're going to isolate the need. After we isolate the need, we're going to gather and analyze data. Once we have that information, we're going to create a SMART goal. I'm sure most of you are aware of what a SMART goal is, and if you're not, go back to the building and have an understanding of that. It'll take you about 30 seconds. After we identify the SMART goal, well, how are we going to accomplish that goal? So we have to go and investigate those practices. And then after we have a list of practices, we're going to select the strategies that we believe in. And then after you determine the strategies, well, now you need professional development, or the new term is professional learning. It's replacing professional development. Professional development operates under the concept that you need X amount of hours of training to learn how to do something. And quite frankly, professional learning is every time that you learn more about your students, your classroom, your instructional practices, and that can occur anywhere from a 30-second discussion to a 45-minute PLC discussion. Then develop the action plans to develop those strategies that you've been trained on and implement those with fidelity. And then lastly, analyze and refocus and start that all over again. And so we could be engaging in school improvement on a regular basis. It's not something we do year long. It's something that we may do for a week or 6 weeks. And if you're relying on your principals to engage in school improvement and to move you along, it actually needs to come from the opposite way. It's not me saying, hey, here's what we need to do. It's you saying, after we've done these steps, Chip, here's what we need to do. And we turn that ownership over to you, and we give you the tools to accomplish that. And at the end, we say there are 4 essential questions for PLCs. There are 5 questions that we ask for school improvement. I'm not going to read these to you, but I'm going to give you time to read those. How do those questions fit in with the process that I just showed you? So we're done with the idea that school improvement's an enigma. It's a known process with clearly identified outcomes. I understand that was a little bit more technical than some of the other presenters, but that's kind of my job in being responsible for secondary and implementing school improvement systematically across our district. At the core of all this is what Dr. Jarrett said. It's the culture. And through professional learning communities, we establish a culture of sharing, believing in others, and improving ourselves. I wish you the best of luck as you start the school year. Have a great day.